These are excerpts from verses 51 through 118 of Shinran's Hymns of the Pure Land. Verse 51. Venerable Ananda, rising from his seat, beheld the majestic radiance of the world-honored one. Amazed, with a rare feeling of wonder emerging in him, he realized he had never witnessed such radiance before. Verse 52. Sakyamuni's splendor was rare and auspicious. Ananda, rejoicing immensely, asked its meaning, whereupon the Buddha revealed the fundamental intent of his appearance in the world. Verse 53. Having entered the samadhi of great tranquility, the Buddha's countenance was wondrous in its radiance. Observing the depth of Ananda's discernment, he praised him for his insightful question. Verse 54. The fundamental intent for which the Buddha appeared in the world was to reveal the truth and reality of the primal vow. He taught that to encounter or behold a Buddha is as rare as the blossoming of the Adambara. Verse 56. The Buddha of inconceivable light, under Lokasvara Raja Buddha, selected the best qualities from among all the pure lands of the 10 quarters to establish the primal vow. Verse 57. The light of the Buddha of unhindered light harbors the lights of purity, joy, and wisdom. Its virtuous working surpasses conceptual understanding as it benefits the beings throughout the 10 quarters. Verse 58. Encouraging the beings of the 10 quarters with the words, quote, "With sincere mind entrust yourselves and aspire for birth," close quote, Amida established the vow beyond conceptual understanding and made it the cause of birth in the true and real fulfilled land. Verse 59. Those who attain true and real Shinjin immediately join in the truly settled. Thus, having entered the stage of non-retrogression, they necessarily attain nirvana. Verse 65. Based on the vow that beings ultimately attain birth, Sakyamuni presented in the Amida Sutra the root of good and the root of virtue, encouraging those of the one vehicle. Verse 66. Those who say the name in self-power, whether meditative or non-meditative, having indeed taken refuge in the vow that beings ultimately attain birth, will spontaneously, even without being taught, turn about and enter the gate of suchness. Verse 68. It is difficult to encounter a time when a Tathagata appears in the world, and difficult to hear the teaching of the Buddhas. It is rare to hear the excellent Dharma for Bodhisattvas, even in the span of countless kalpas. Verse 69. It is difficult to meet true teachers, and difficult for them to instruct. It is difficult to hear the teaching well, and more difficult still to accept it. Verse 70. More difficult even than trust in the teachings of Sakyamuni's lifetime is the true and trusting of the universal vow. The sutra teaches that it is, quote, the most difficult of all difficulties, that, quote, nothing surpasses this difficulty. Verse 71. Attaining Buddhahood through the Nembutsu is the true essence of the Pure Land way. The myriad practices and good acts are the temporary gate. Unless one distinguishes the accommodated and the real, the temporary and the true, one cannot possibly know the Pure Land that is naturalness. Verse 72. Sentient beings, having long followed the path of sages, the accommodated and temporary teachings that are provisional means, have been transmigrating in various forms of existence. So take refuge in the one vehicle of the compassionate vow. Verse 81. Let us overturn the three minds of self-power, whether meditative or non-meditative, which vary with each practicer. Let us aspire into Shinjin, that arises from Amitas benefiting others. Verse 82. Seeing the sentient beings of the Nembutsu throughout the worlds, countless as particles in the 10 quarters, the Buddha grasps and never abandons them, and therefore is named Amida. Verse 83. The Buddhas, countless as the sands of the Ganges, or as particles, reject the small good of the various practices, and all alike wholeheartedly encourage beings to realize Shinjin, that is the inconceivable working of the name. Verse 84. The Buddhas of the 10 quarters, countless as the sands of the Ganges, teach this Dharma that is most difficult to accept. For the sake of the evil world of the 5 defilements, they bear witness to the teaching and protect beings who take refuge in it. Verse 85. The Buddha's protection and witness arise from the fulfillment of the vow of compassion. So let those who attain the diamond-like mind respond in gratitude to Amida's great benevolence. Verse 86. To the evil sentient beings of wrong views in this evil age of the 5 defilements, in this evil world, the Buddhas, countless as the sands of the Ganges, give the name of Amida, urging them to entrust themselves to it. Verse 87. Amida, full of compassion for those lost in the great night of ignorance, the wheel of light of Dharmabody being boundless, took the form of the Buddha of unhindered light and appeared in the land of peace. Verse 88. Amida, who attained Buddhahood in the infinite past, full of compassion for foolish beings of the 5 defilements, took the form of Sakyamuni Buddha and appeared in Gaya. Verse 89. Let Amida be praised for 100,000 kotis of kalpas, by 100,000 kotis of tongues, each tongue producing countless voices, and still that praise would be incomplete. Verse 90. The great sage Sakyamuni teaches that Amida's land is easy to reach, and calls the sentient beings who doubts the Pure Land path a person lacking eyes or lacking ears. Verse 91. The supreme that is unexcelled is true emancipation. True emancipation is none other than Tathagata. When we attain true emancipation, we become free of desire and free of doubt. Verse 92. When a person realizes the mind of non-discrimination, that attainment is the, quote, state of regarding each being as one's only child. This is none other than Buddha nature. We will awaken to it on reaching the land of peace. Verse 93. Tathagata is none other than Nirvana. Nirvana is called Buddha nature. Beyond our ability to attain it in the state of foolish beings, we will realize it on reaching the land of peace. Verse 94. The person who attains Shinjin and joy is taught to be equal to the Tathagatas. Great Shinjin is itself Buddha nature. Buddha nature is none other than Tathagata. Verse 98. When we say, quote, Namo Amida Butsu, which surpasses all virtues, our heavy obstructions of evil, past, present, and future, are all unfailingly transformed, becoming light. Verse 108. When we say, quote, Namu Amida Butsu, Avalokitesvara and Mahastama Prapta, together with bodhisattvas countless as the Ganges sands or as particles, accompany us, just as shadows do things. Verse 110. When we say, quote, Namu Amida Butsu, the countless Buddhas throughout the 10 quarters, surrounding us 100-fold, 1,000-fold, rejoice in and protect us. Verse 111. Having realized the perfect, all-pervading truth of the Nembutsu, Mahastama Prapta, together with 52 bodhisattvas, rose from his seat and prostrated himself at the feet of Sakyamuni Buddha. Verse 112. He addressed the world-honored one, the master of the teaching, quote, Ages ago, kalpas countless as the Ganges sands in the past, a Buddha appeared in the world whose name was immeasurable light. Verse 113. Thereafter, Tathagatas succeeded each other, 12 in all, over a duration of 12 kalpas. The last Tathagata was named Light that Surpasses Sun and Moon. Verse 114. The Tathagata of light that surpasses the sun and moon taught me the Nembutsu Samadhi. The Tathagatas of the 10 quarters compassionately regard each sentient being as their only child. Verse 115. When sentient beings think on Amida, just as a child thinks of its mother, they indeed see the Tathagata, who is never distant, both in the present and in the future. And finally, verse 116. Such beings are like people who, imbued with incense, bear its fragrance on their bodies. They may be called those adorned with the fragrance of light. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.